Hello everybody, welcome back to American Textbook Reading. We're on Lesson 4, and by the way, I'm Brian Stuart, but anyway, we're on Lesson 4. Lesson 4, the United States Government. We're talking about the government of the United States. In this unit, you will discover the government offers government services to communities. So when we think about the government, we say, why do we need a government? What does the government do? Well, the government is very important because it offers services to communities. The government gives us services, things that we need. We need some work that people will do for us. Who will do those things for us? Private companies don't do those things for us, or maybe we can't trust the private companies. The government will give us those services. That's what we're going to talk about in this unit. So let's take a look. Our first word, of course, is government. What is government? Government is defined as the group of people that controls a community. Now that's an interesting word, controls a community. It's the group of people that has the power to make laws, to change community policy, but be careful using control, right? In democratic countries, the government, sure, they kind of control the community, but the people elect those leaders. So they don't have absolute power. In other countries that are not democratic, yeah, one person or a few people do control the community. So it depends on what kind of government we're talking about. But it's a government is a group of people who are in charge, who figure out how the community will act, what will happen in the community, or what the laws are. So that's the group of people that controls a community. In the United States, the government is represented by the Capitol building, also by the White House, but the Capitol building is where Congress meets. And that, of course, is a very large group of people who are elected to their position, elected to their office, and they make laws that everybody in America must follow. So that's the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., where Congress meets. Okay. So we talked about government. Government offers services to the community, but what is a government service? What are we talking about? A government service is a thing that government does for a community. Here, a thing isn't something that you touch or hold. It's a service. It's work. So you could say work that a government does for a community. Here are two examples of work that a government provides for a community. First of all, we can see a police officer. What does a police officer do? They work to keep us safe, to protect us from bad people. Obviously, police officers are very important. They offer a valuable service to the community. The other example that we can see here is of a firefighter. What do firefighters do? They also keep us safe. If there's a fire or emergency, firefighters come out and help people get to safety, or they help put out fires. They help deal with disasters. And of course, this is a very important service to the community, especially in times of emergency. So these are two examples of work or things that a government does for a community. These people are part of the government. They work for the government. They are part of the government. So government services are work that other people do to make our lives much better. Okay, most countries, and especially America, has a president. The president is the leader of a country. So usually we have one person who is in charge of, who controls the country, or who represents the interests of the majority people of the country. And we call that person a president. In this picture, of course, we can see U.S. President Barack Obama and his wife, Michelle. Now, here we can see Barack Obama. He's giving a speech presidents give a speech, they always have this seal here, this symbol. Anytime they give a speech, they have this seal here at their podium. And of course, presidents give speeches. Many people come to hear what the president has to say. In this case, the president is talking about health care. He wants to provide the American people with another government service in terms of health care. And he wants people to vote for his plan. He wants people to support his plan. So he comes to the people and he talks about his plan or plans, and the people say, yes, we like that. We will do that. So that's what the President of the United States does. Most of the time, he's giving speeches, trying to convince people to support his ideas and what he wants to do to give the nation certain services or to do certain things. Okay, when we talk about the government has to meet somewhere, right? These are people. You have the president, you have Congress. Many people are involved in the government. They have to meet somewhere. They have to have their offices somewhere. In America, they have their offices in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is the capital. When you talk about a country's capital, it's where their national government meets. It's the city where the government of a country is located. In other words, the Capitol building, the White House, the Supreme Court, these are all located in Washington, D.C. in America, because Washington, D.C., let me write this down here for you, Washington, D.C. D.C. stands for District of Columbia, and it is the city right here. It's not in a state. It's its own little area. It's not part of any state of America. It has its own special area, Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. And that's where the capital of the United States is. Don't be confused, because there is a state right here. This is Washington State. So don't get confused between those two, okay? Washington State is here. Washington, D.C. is a city. That's right here. It's actually much smaller than this picture, okay? So don't get confused between the two, okay? Washington, D.C. is a city, about right there. That's the capital where the government of a country is located. In Korea, what is the capital? That's right, it's Seoul. Seoul is the capital of Korea. Okay. Safety. So we're talking about government and government services. As we saw, the firefighter and the policeman, they are very important because they help keep us safe. They want to keep people safe. So we're talking about safety. Safety means not being in any danger. You are not in danger. If you're not in danger, you are safe. Normally, usually, we are not in danger, right? Okay, normally, we are safe. We are safe, okay? And we're talking about that adjective, safety. Oh, I'm sorry, noun would be safety. Adjective is safe. We are safe. Let's get to safety. So you use this as a noun, let's get to safety. And as an adjective, safe. We are safe. Okay. Next one. Important. 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 Long word, many syllables. Important. Having a big effect. Effect is like result. Remember? Effect is like result. So something has a big result, or something is very powerful in a group or for an event. It's very important. The effect or the result is very big. It's important. In this case, this person is important. This person could be the leader, could be the boss or the president, and many other people listen or follow the leader. So this person is important because this person has a big effect. But not just people, many things are important, right? Objects or things in your life that are important have a big effect on your lives. Okay, here we have a firefighter. A firefighter is someone who helps keep us safe, right? We talked about this before. We saw the example of the policeman and the example of firefighter. What is a firefighter? A person who professionally puts out fires. So that's an interesting word right there, professionally. What does that mean? Professionally. It's a person who is a professional and they do something. They do it professionally. Now, when we talk about professional, what is a professional? When we talk about professional, it's helpful to think about this word too, amateur. Amateur. Amateur is someone who does something as a hobby, or they do something that they like to do, but they don't get money for it. For example, athletes. In the Olympics, the athletes are amateurs. They're not getting paid by a team or a company to go and compete. They're amateurs. When somebody does something and they get paid for it, it's their job, they get a salary for doing it, then they are a professional. And if they do something professionally, they're doing it because it's part of their job. Firefighters, it's their job to put out fires. They're getting paid for it. They work for the government. By the way, firefighters don't just put out fires, they also help in other types of emergencies, like a disaster, an earthquake, or if a building falls down, they come out and they help people to get to safety, and they help save people. But their main job is to put out firefighters. That's why they're called firefighters. Okay. Another type of government employee. These are types, of course, of government employee. Government employee. A government employee. We saw firefighter first. Another type of government employee is park ranger. Interesting job, right? Many kids sometimes say, I want to be a park ranger. Why? What do park rangers do? A park ranger is a person who takes care of. They take care of national parks or forests. So, if you think about a national park like Chirisan or Soraksan, very beautiful places, right? Nice mountains, trees, but many people go there, right? It's a problem if people throw their trash or if they walk anywhere off the trail. Other people, the government, who work for the government, they have to make sure that these areas are used correctly, that people don't destroy those areas, or that the area is in good shape. They take care of national parks and forests. And you can see an example of a park ranger here. He's looking around. Maybe he's looking for a forest fire, right? Park rangers also put out fires. They might be involved in that. So park rangers are people who take care of national parks or forests. They make sure that they're beautiful and nice places for everybody to visit. Who does that service? The government does. So a park ranger is a government employee. Okay, we have a lot of different government services and a lot of different government employees on this chart. We can see government services. These are the services that the government provides. And we can see different types of jobs. We talked about firefighter already. These guys are pretty cool, right? Okay, but they're firefighters, right? That's one type of government employee. Another one is a teacher. Do you think teachers work for private companies? No, the teachers work for the government, especially in elementary school, middle school, and high school. They work for the government. So your teacher is a government employee, and the government service to the public is education. Everybody should have a good education. That is a government service. So teachers are government employees. Next one is government workers. Government workers could be, lots of different jobs. They could be building something. They could be putting down sewer lines or something under the street to make sure that the cities and the streets and the towns are working correctly. So there's many types of jobs for government workers. If you go to the library, your city probably has a library. And if you go to that library, It's run by the government. So the people who work there, the librarian can be a government employee, especially if it's a library that's provided by the government, especially city government, right? There are some Seoul city libraries, or other cities in Korea, of course, have libraries as well. These are provided by the city government, and these people work in those places. They are librarians. A park ranger, of course, we talked about the park rangers take care of a national forest or park, and they make sure it's good for everybody else. And we also talked about police officers too. Police officers are very important in society. They protect us, and they make sure that we are protected from other people who might do bad things. So police officers are very important for our society. Okay, let's move on to the exercise. We're going to match the words to the right definition. What are the words? The words are government, government. By the way, it's interesting when you pronounce government, 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 you're not really pronouncing N. It's government, government. But don't forget, there is an N there, but it's pronounced government. You don't hear it. Okay, next one. Government service, government service. Okay, president, president. Capital, capital. Safety, safety. And important, important. Okay, important. Okay, so let's match the words to their proper definitions. Number one, having a big effect, a big result. Something that has a big result. What is it? Of course, it is important. It's important. Number two, the leader of a country. Somebody who is in charge of a country. They're responsible, right? They lead the country. People follow them. They have the big ideas that they want other people to support them, right? They want people to support their ideas. The leader of a country would be a president. We saw the video of President Barack Obama. Okay, number three, not being in any danger. So not in danger, not in danger. Most of the time, we are not in danger, right? We are safe. So if we're talking about the noun form of safe, we say safety, right? Safety is the noun of safe. Safe is an adjective. We are in safety. We have to get to safety, for example. Okay, number four. The group of people that controls a community. So we're not talking about one person. We're talking about a group of people. Like, for example, Congress or Parliament, okay? Assembly. A group of people that controls a community. And it's not just Congress, but it's also all the branches of government, all the parts of government. I just said what it was. Government, right? Government is the group of people that controls a community. And by the way, a community can be many things. A community can be a nation. A community can be a state. A community can be a city, a town, a village. You have different levels of government, right? So you have a city government, a state government, and a national government. But it's just a group of people that controls a community, but different levels of government. Okay, number five. A thing that a government does for a community. So a government does certain things for a community. What are those things? We call those government services, or a government service. Singular, plural, government services. Okay, number six. The city where the government of a country is. So the government has to be somewhere in a country, right? And it's the city where the government buildings and offices are located. What do we call that city? That city is the capital city, the capital of a country. Seoul is the capital of Korea. Washington, D.C. is the capital of America. Okay, we have a chart here. When we talk about governments and we talked about presidents, right, we can look at our history of the countries, right? And we can remember important presidents, important leaders of a country. In America, we have three examples of very famous and very important presidents. Of course, there are many important presidents. These are just three of them. I won't say they're the three most important, but they're three important presidents. Okay, number one, we have a picture, of course, of each president, and down here we have their name and what they did. Number one is Thomas Jefferson. Have you heard that name before? Thomas Jefferson was, of course, very important in the United States, not just because he was a president, but even before he was a president. What did he do? He wrote the Declaration of Independence. So even before Thomas Jefferson became president, he helped make America independent from Great Britain, from England. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. He had some help, sure, but he was the main person who wrote the Declaration of Independence. Very important person to help make America a new country. In Washington, D.C., he is so important, of course, that in Washington, D.C., they have built a building, it's a round building, to put his statue in. And this is called the Jefferson Memorial. It's in Washington, D.C. As you can see, it's a very impressive monument to remember the very important person who was very important, of course, to the United States of America. Very important to creating a new nation. That's Thomas Jefferson. His statue is there. Very big statue. Okay, now we're on the next president. The next president we're talking about is Abraham Lincoln. We can see his picture here. By the way, it's interesting. These pictures are very familiar. You can see them very often if you're in America and you use American money. These pictures are on American money, the paper money. Just like if you look at a Korean bill like Chunwon, Ochunwon, yeah, you have Ochunwon and you have Manwon, you have pictures of different people, don't you? Well, the same thing here. Jefferson is on the $2 bill. He's on the $2 bill. And Abraham Lincoln is on the $5 bill. Okay? So these are presidents who are very important, obviously, in American history. Their pictures are on American money. Jefferson's on the $2 bill. Abraham Lincoln is on the $5 bill. What did Abraham Lincoln do? Abraham Lincoln gave freedom to African Americans. He made a policy to give all black Americans freedom after the Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation. It gave all the slaves freedom after the Civil War, a long time ago, about 150 years ago in American history. Okay, so that's Abraham Lincoln, and our third president is Franklin Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt was very important in a certain part of American history. By the way, he's more modern, right? He's in the 1900s, right? Thomas Jefferson is 1700s. Abraham Lincoln is 1800s. Franklin Roosevelt is 1900s. What did Franklin Roosevelt do? Well, he did many things. He was also president during a very difficult time for America. He made laws that gave people jobs. When President Roosevelt was the president, there was a very bad economic time in America called the Great Depression. And Franklin Roosevelt made policy, it's called the New Deal. It gave people many jobs. It put them back to work. Many people didn't have jobs at that time, and the economy was really, really bad. But Roosevelt helped improve the American economy by getting people back to work and giving them jobs, a lot of government programs. Okay, let's take a look at the pictures and write the word that best describes them. Okay, so we have different pictures. We have Thomas Jefferson here, Franklin Roosevelt here, and Abraham Lincoln here. The past beep of the United States. What do all these men have in common? They are all past presidents. The past presidents of the United States. That's what they have in common. So Thomas Jefferson, Franklin Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. Let's take a look at our true-false questions. Number one, a park ranger is the leader of a country. Sounds good? A park ranger is the leader of a country. What does a park ranger do? A park ranger takes care of the national forests or parks. They don't run the country, so that's not correct. That's false, right? We have to change that. It's not a park ranger is the leader of the country. Who is the leader of a country? Do you remember? That's right, it's a president. A president. A president is the leader of a country. So the president is a leader of a country. Okay, number 2. Government service is a thing that a government does for a community. So we talked about service, right? A government service to keep people safe, to put out fires, to teach kids, give them an education. These are government services. These are things, right? A government does these things for the community. That's true. Absolutely, that is true. Government service is a thing that a government does for the community. Okay, number 3. A president, a president, we were talking about that before. A president is the city where the government of a country is. Does that make sense? A president is a person, not a place. A city is a place. That doesn't make sense. That's not true. That's false. Because a president is a person, not a place, right? How do we change this? We have to say a capital. A capital is the city, not the president, right? A capital is the city where the government of a country is. So we would have to change that sentence. Okay, that wraps it up for the vocabulary section. Don't go away. We're going to take a short break, come back, and look at the reading. So stay with us. Okay, welcome back to the reading section. Let's talk about the reading passage which describes the government of a country or city, and we're also going to talk about details of that government. In the first statement, of course, it gets to what we were talking about before, right? The fact that there are governments for different places, right? There are governments for towns, cities, states, and countries. Remember, I talked about different levels of government. Levels of government. So there are many different communities. All of these are different communities. A town is a community, a city is a community, a state is a community, and a country is a community. They're just different sizes. So each level, each community will have its own government. Each community will have a different level of government. Now, the largest community, of course, is a country. That's the largest community, and it's the largest government. We call the government of a country, we say it's the national government. Whoops, slow down here. National. The national government is the country's government. That's on the level of the country. So national government. Who leads the national government? Well, a president is the leader of a country. That person is the leader of the national government at that level. The government of the United States is chosen by the people of the United States. This is very important, of course, in the history not only of the United States, but also the history of the world, right? The United States was one of the first democratic countries in the world. It's very important that they had a new type of government, a democracy. At the beginning of the vocabulary lesson, we talked about different governments, right? Some governments are not democratic. They are controlled very tightly or very strictly by one person or a very small group of people who don't change. But in a democratic country like the United States, the people choose. The people choose who their government will be, right? They elect those people. They choose the president. They choose the people in Congress, okay? So that's very important for a democratic country. The government of a country is in the capital of a country. So when we talk about where is the government located, we say it's located in the capital of a country. What is the capital of America? The capital of the United States is Washington, D.C. Remember, I told you D.C. stands for District of Columbia. District of Columbia. Don't be confused. Columbia. Don't be confused with Washington, D.C. and Washington State, right? They're very far away from each other, okay? So Washington, D.C. is the capital city of America. Because it's the capital city, it has a nickname. A nickname. A nickname is another name. Whoops. A nickname is another name. Yeah, I made a little mistake there. Nickname. It's one word. A nickname is another name that, people will give to something or someone. You might have a nickname. Your friends might call you a name that's not your real name. It's your nickname. Same thing. Washington, D.C., it is the nation's heart. So Washington, D.C. could be called the nation's heart. Just like New York City is called the Big Apple. So New York City, their nickname is the Big Apple. Washington, D.C., the nickname nation's heart. Okay, the government runs the country, makes the country safe, makes the country stable so things aren't crazy, right? To make sure that everything is safe, everybody's happy. The government runs the country by offering government services to communities. This is what governments do. And again, you have different levels of government, different levels of service, right? You have national services, you have state services, you have city services. Each city government offers services like police officers, firefighters, are city government, right? Park rangers are national government, okay? So you have different levels of government, different levels of services. So, police officers, firefighters, and park rangers are important government services. They help people and look after our safety. That's the important thing right there. So police officers keep us safe. Firefighters put out fires, keep us safe. Park rangers also keep us safe. They look for fires in national parks. They also make sure the national parks and forests are safe places and fun places to visit. So they help people and they look after. Look after means you be careful of something, to be careful of something. Look after, take care of, they mean the same thing. Look after our safety. So these people are interested in keeping us safe. Okay, how? Let's take a look at this little bit of details. A police officer helps keep us safe in our community, right? A firefighter puts out fires, and a park ranger looks after nature in our national parks. So we see examples of these. Before we saw that there were 3 people mentioned, police officers, firefighters, and park rangers. Then here we have a little bit more detail about each job and what they do. So police officer keeps us safe, protects us from bad people. If you have a problem, you should find a police officer. They will help keep you safe and help solve your problem. If there's a fire, call the firefighters, right? They put out fires. And park rangers, if you go to a national park and you see a park ranger, the park rangers will give you advice. They also take care of our parks for us to make sure that they're safe and that we can enjoy them well. And that's what they do. They look after nature in our national parks. Okay, let's take a look at the reading skill. Cause and effect. Okay, so we have a situation and we have a result of that situation. Here we have our main idea here. The government offers government services. The government offers government services, and they offer different types of services. Those are kind of like the situations. They are the causes. Police officers, beep and beep. We have to fill those in, right? But these are the causes, these are the situations. What is the effect of these? Remember, effect is like something that is important has a big effect, right? So has a big result. So here we have police officers. What do police officers do? What is the effect of police officers? What is the result of having police officers? The result is police officers look after our what? Look after our what? Our safety, our park rangers, or our firefighters. Of course, police officers look after our safety. they make sure that we are safe. So they look after our safety. Here, beep, what is it? It says put out fire, right? Put out fire, put out fires, right? Who does that? Of course, firefighters. Firefighters, a firefighter will put out a fire. The next one down, it's blank. What is the detail? Look after nature. So look after nature. Take care of trees and animals. Make sure national parks are safe and enjoyable. Of course, who does that? Park rangers do that. So park rangers look after nature. Okay, let's take a look at the reading comprehension questions. How well do you remember the reading? Number 1, what is the capital of the United States? What is the capital city of the United States? We have 3 choices. Very interesting. Jefferson, D.C., Lincoln, D.C., or Washington, D.C. Which is the answer? Did you get it? Of course, it's Washington, D.C. They're trying to trick you. Washington is, of course, named after George Washington, the first president of the United States. Lincoln, we know Abraham Lincoln was also a president, but we don't name the capital after him. It's not Lincoln, D.C. Jefferson was also a president, but I don't think there's any city named Jefferson, D.C. There might be towns called Jefferson. I'm sure there are, but the capital is not called Jefferson, D.C. So they're trying to trick you. These are all names of past presidents, right? But of course, the president that we honor by using his name after our capital city is George Washington, the first president of the United States. It's Washington, D.C. By the way, George Washington is on the $1 bill, his picture. Okay, number 2. A beep is someone who looks after forests. So someone who looks after, takes care of, right? They want to make sure that those places are fun and safe for us to visit. What kind of person does that? We're looking for a job, some job description, right? So A, park ranger, B, firefighter, C, police officer. What is it? Did you get it? Yep, it's A, park ranger. A park ranger is someone who looks after forests. Firefighters don't look after forests. They put out fires, usually buildings in towns and cities. Police officers just keep us safe from bad people. Park rangers look after forests. Okay, number 3. How does the government run a country? How does a government run a country? We have many choices. A, by putting out fires. Okay. B, by offering government services to communities. C, by making sure that the president is chosen. Which one is the best answer of these? A, by putting out fires. Does government only put out fires? It's true that government does put out fires. Firefighters work for the government, so the government does put out fires. But is it the only thing that the government does? No, it's not. Government does much, much, much more than just put out fires. So A is not the appropriate answer. B, by offering government services to communities. That's more general, isn't it? That describes the much, much more that the government does. Putting out fires is just one of those services. The government runs a country by offering many government services to communities. B is the correct answer. How about C? Just look at it for practice. By making sure that the president is chosen. Okay, well, the government does run elections, that's true, but that's only one service, right? We need the most appropriate answer, which is B, by offering government services, all of these services to communities. Okay, number 4, police officers and firefighters. So we need some sentence that is true for both police officers and firefighters. A, are the only people who can choose our leaders. Are the only people who can choose our leaders. So when we elect a president, we can't do it unless we're a firefighter or a police officer. Does that sound right? No, of course not. Everybody is involved in choosing our leaders, right? All citizens, not just police officers and firefighters, that's not appropriate. B, look after our national parks and put out fires. Oh, put out fires? That's a firefighter, right? But look after national parks? Do police officers look after national parks? No. Do firefighters look after national parks? No, that's not correct. C, police officers and firefighters do important government services for our safety. Is that true? They work for the government, they provide a service, and they both make sure that we are safe. Absolutely, that is true. The answer is C. Okay, let's take a look at our chart again. We can see that there are many different types of government services available, many different types of people who work for the government. These are all government employees. Let's take a look. Up here we have two guys wearing jackets, yellow jackets, and they have black helmets on their heads. They look like they have good equipment to go put out a fire. So people who put out a fire, what do we call them? We call them a firefighter. This person here, she looks like she's in a classroom, right? She has her blackboard, she has many books. Students come to school and they learn from people like her. Of course, many schools are run by the government, especially elementary school, middle school, and high school. These are run by the government. These people work for the government. They are called a teacher. They are called a teacher or teachers. Okay, next one down. Now these gentlemen, these men here, they have many different kinds of jobs. They could be doing many different kinds of things. They could be building something. They could be repairing something. Basically, they help make sure a city or a town works correctly and everything is nice and clean and safe. What are they? What do we call them? We call them government workers because they work for the government. If they work for a private company, they're just company workers or workers. But if they work for the government, they are government workers. Over here, where is this lady here? This woman is in a building. Looks like there are many books that you can go and check out, and you can read a lot of books. If you need help, you want to find a book, you can ask her to help you. Also, she makes sure that everything's quiet. Where does she work? She works at a library, and many libraries are run by the government. So what type of government employee is she? She is a librarian. Over here, this man here, he looks very serious, right? He's got his hat on. He's got his binoculars around his neck. He probably works in the outdoors. He works outside. He looks after the forests and the parks of a nation. So what is his job? He is called a park ranger. Finally, we have these men here and women. By the way, you notice they're all wearing blue uniforms. Blue is a very common color for this type of job. So we could, a nickname for these people here are called men and women in blue. Men and women in blue. And they, of course, they keep us safe. They protect us from bad people. What kind of government employee are they? They are called police officers. An officer is a good word to use because it means both men and women. Just like firefighter can be both men and women. Okay, so these are all types of government services, government employees. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the United States government, but specifically our focus is on the services that the government provides. Remember, there are different levels of government and different levels of services. We have city, town, national government. The leader of a national government is called the president. Okay, so we've taken a look at a lot of different types of government services, and that's kind of interesting to think about when you think about your government. Okay, well, hope you learned a lot. Take care, everybody. See you next time.